we have our city council workshop, and then our roll call, we have Ms. Rachel Hall on my left, to your right, our attorney Tommy, city manager Lee, city secretary Juanita, and Brent McWaters. Mayor's running a little late, and then a couple other council members that aren't going to be able to make it till 6 for our actual meeting. Then we have Roger Brooks do our invocation, and Brent McWaters do our pledges.
Let's pray. Thank the Lord for us being here today. Thank the Lord, those who aren't able to make it at this time. Pray for the ones that are here. Let's make good decisions on the city's future. In Christ's name, pray. Amen. The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
And then we'll move on to discussion on following. Item 3, proposed impact fee study, and draft of the following: A, capital improvement plan, and B, land use assumption. And I'll turn it over to Blau.
Good afternoon. My name is Blake Behringer with Blau Engineering. I'm coming to y'all today to present on your impact fee. A while back, the city contracted with Blau Engineering to put together an impact fee study and report, and we've worked with the city staff over the last several months putting together the necessary documents required for your impact fee study so that we can get this adopted. We gave a presentation on this quite a while back, and we just thought it was a good time as we're reaching a conclusion and presenting the draft to the city. We felt like this was a good time to meet and have a workshop, present all this back, refresh y'all's memory, and allow y'all to ask any questions or concerns that y'all might have before we move forward with implementing these things. So we'll jump into it. Let's start with just what is an impact fee, right? An impact fee is a charge to a incoming developer or somebody that's trying to add development into your city. This is a charge that helps recoup some of the cost of the increased cost of the infrastructure or putting together CIP projects that help facilitate growth, maintain growth. So this is just a funding mechanism that the city can use to help not incur those costs out of your tax dollars. These new developers that are coming in that increase your demand on your existing infrastructure or new infrastructure that's needed, this is them paying their part of those costs. So this is a funding mechanism that the state allows through Local Government Code Chapter 395. It's also the code that we have to abide by when we're putting these studies together. It goes through the key parts and the necessary paperwork and reporting that we have to do so that the cities can actually implement and collect these fees. Some of those key parts and subsequent portions of this impact fee study were the land use assumptions and putting together a land use assumptions map and a capital improvements plan, which we built off of years past CIP plans that y'all had adopted through your comprehensive plans and other studies. So next slide. Jumping into the land use assumptions. The land use assumptions is a prediction of where the city's going growth-wise. So what we do is we look at the undeveloped areas of the city, including its ETJ and city limits, and we look 10 years into the future. What does Cleveland, Texas look like? Where's the growth going to happen? Where are the big subdivisions going to come in? Where are the commercial and industrial users going to be? And what demands are they going to put on your system? So in doing so, we have to have a land use assumptions committee which we met with 2 times over the course of a year, where we had the committee give their input. That committee's made up of real estate individuals, developers, city staff, as well as us as the engineer. And we look at that map and we evaluate and we go back and forth on what that 10-year growth pattern looks like, where that growth is, and what your demands are going to be on it as a result of those growths. The land use assumption also allows us to calculate what your total connections is going to look like through various complicated calculations on how we take the acreage of these developments, if they're industrial, and assign them a water rate, gallons per day, so that we can assign them an impact fee. The next slide goes into a actual land use assumptions map. This is the final product of after those 2 committee meetings and us collaborating with staff. We've been able to narrow down what is shown on the screen as green and yellow areas. And there's also gray, a little harder to see on your screen, for industrial use. So again, we met twice with your committee. This is what we've come up with as what the long-term being 10-year, what the growth looks like for Cleveland, as well as what the development's going to be and what the resulting impact in single family units is going to equate to. Going to the next slide, we're going to touch on the capital improvements plan. Like I mentioned, we've built off of y'all's existing CIP plans from the past, as well as working with staff to identify other key projects that are going to be needed to continue this growth pattern in Cleveland. Y'all are no stranger to the growth that's coming, it's happening, and we need to make plans to accommodate that growth as it happens and not be reactive, but being proactive. So we've added projects like a new water treatment facility up at the North Side School, where we have the elevated storage tank but no water production. We've added stuff like expansion of the wastewater treatment plant on the east side of town. We've included stuff like lift stations on 787 that'll help us get the sewer from near the airport to your wastewater treatment facilities here in town. Things of that nature that are important to develop those areas as you continue to grow. That project list is rather long, but as a result of putting that list together, we've also associated the costs of what those projects are going to cost the city to do those projects, right? So on a 10-year timeline, what the growth is going to be, and then what those projects need to be over that 10-year plan, we can calculate, here's the cost, here's the growth, how much money out of those projects needs to be divided by that growth, right? And that gets you your impact fee that you would then turn around and charge the new developers that need those projects to accommodate their development. So the next 2 slides show 2 of the exhibits that we put in the report that just show you a couple of the areas where these projects are going to take place. So we've got a water CIP map here that, as you can tell, the bubbles labeled P with a number after it are pointing to project locations that we've identified as key areas that need potential projects to help. And then the rest of the lines that you see on the screen are existing water infrastructure. Those are your water lines through the city proper. As y'all know, the water lines do extend off the page in both directions, east and west. On the actual exhibit, we have inlets, or insets, my bad. So that show where those water lines ultimately go to off this screen. Next slide is the sewer, which is very similar in the fact that those are your existing sewer infrastructure, labeled with the same call-outs, and the P in there stands for project. So project 1 on the wastewater is like the full force main and lift station down 787 there, you can see highlighted orange. So both of those maps are necessary to identify the project locations, and then we go through in the actual impact fee study, the CIP portion, to show you those costs of those projects. Next slide, we will talk about the impact fee calculation that I referenced a little bit. So the calculation is the sum of the CIP projects, which at this time comes a little over 50 million over the next 10 years. That's a large number, but that's where we're seeing cost projected out with a little bit of inflation. Since the city did not want to move forward with a full-blown financial analysis that would be encompassed in this impact fee study, so rather costly endeavor with very little benefit, the impact fee can only be collected to 50% of the credit. If you would have done an impact fee financial analysis, there was some wiggle room on how much more over the 50% you could account for, but there's a lot of give and take there on the city's behalf. This is a good starting ground, I think, so moving forward with the 50% credit's the right move. What we then do is, using your land use assumptions map, we can calculate what your service units are, or single-family equivalent units, what I refer to them a lot as. There's some terminology difference with TCEQ on how they define that. So we can calculate what the SUs are based on the water demands of industrial versus a residential. So take a 50-lot subdivision, for instance. Each lot is a individual SU, and each of those lots is going to receive a 5/8 meter. But in comparison, you might get a Walmart, right? A Walmart might use much more water, thus needing a bigger meter. So what we end up doing is we have to calculate it back down. How many SUs is Walmart? There's a calculation for how much water their demand is, and then we can back calculate that off your meter size to get what your SU is. So this impact fee that you're seeing kind of in bold at the bottom of each of these tables is what y'all's projected impact fees are for each, the water and the wastewater. The impact fee for water we've calculated to be $1,919, the sewer being $1,586. Combined total impact fee for water and wastewater being $3,505. And that dollar amount is for one SU. So one residential house would be charged an impact fee of $3,505. So I kind of already touched on this next slide a little bit. Like I said, the larger developments are going to be required for a larger meter size, thus bigger water usage, thus your infrastructure's drawn on a little bit heavier, needing more, right? So the way we justify charging more, if you go to the next slide, like I mentioned, as an example, if you had a Walmart come in that needed a 6-inch meter, and they come in and they show that they needed that 6-inch meter, they're up to 80 equivalent units, right? So they would be charged the $280,000 and some change as their impact. That's the impact they're having on your infrastructure that would allow us to do what we need to do on our CIP projects to accommodate them as we grow as a city. As you can tell on this table in the bottom right-hand side, this is your neighbors. This is what we were able to track down as published impact fees from some of your neighboring cities. And keep in mind, your total was $3,505. And you can notice, and this is again working with your staff, this is the Land Use Assumptions Committee, and putting all these together. We were capable of keeping y'all in a very, what I consider, fair area as far as y'all's impact fee. We did a lot of back and forth. We were substantially lower than this at one point, and then as projects continue to compound on themselves, we found a happy medium. But as you can tell, y'all are still the cheapest on this list of 9 or 10 neighboring cities close by. And that just goes to show other cities are doing this, and these cities are still thriving under new development. So I know a lot of the concern comes from the city side that imposing an impact fee can halt or delay growth. But there are a lot of cities exercising their rights to impose these impact fees, and it's not slowing them down at all. So keeping y'all fair on y'all's impact fee, I think, is even more justification that y'all continue to see a growth regardless of imposing this tax or this impact fee, while not putting a burden on your existing tax constituents using your own funds to help developers develop in the city. The next slide kind of goes over like what the next steps are. You know, this workshop is just an information gathering session where I'm trying to share as much information with y'all so y'all can have the best education y'all can. But next steps to implement, you know, we have to have public hearings for both the land use assumptions map and the CIP list. That has to be able to run in the paper a couple times. We have to conduct a public hearing. Then we have to have a council meeting where we adopt the LUA and the CIP by ordinance or resolution within 30 days of the hearing. Then we have to then go out for a public hearing, publish for the actual impact fee. So two separate things. You got the land use assumption CIP, vote, approve, move on to the impact fee itself. And then you'll have to do the public hearing as well, and then at council adopt by ordinance the impact fee. I will state that once you have adopted, and I think our current projection is to bring this to y'all after the public hearings, if all those go smoothly and we are implementing the impact fee, would come around sometime in March of next year. The impact fee itself, if you go to the next slide, will need to be collected no earlier than 1 year after adoption. So you will not be able to impose a impact fee on any developer that gets his plat approved or his building permit approved 1 year post-adoption. After that, you will be able to assess fees for any new development or plats, and it will be advisable y'all come up with a methodology of how y'all want to implement those and when, and then make sure you're maintaining in accordance with Chapter 395 that y'all are meeting all of their implementation requirements. The next couple slides are a lot of information for Pam. Pam's gone MIA. I'm going to present it. It's information that might be beneficial for your financing department on just how you can collect and where the monies need to be utilized. The collection is pretty straightforward. It's a invoice to the developer at the time of requesting the plat, just like your permitting fees. The caveat is you need to discuss a plan moving forward on your timeline on how you're going to accomplish your CIP list in a timely manner. The funds that you collect need to be spent in a timely manner. You have 10 years to spend the funds that you collect, so you hope the development's incoming at a good enough rate that you collect enough money to accomplish your CIP projects as you can take them down. You can do your CIP projects in advance and then use the impact fee to reimburse your city cost for those projects, including the sale of bonds. If you were to sell a bond, you could reimburse through your impact fee retroactive back to yourself to help pay for those. Go ahead. The city can choose to not impose an impact fee at your leisure, and the developers can help participate on their own dime, engineering and construction, to construct projects in the CIP and not pay the impact fee. But that's going to be a case-by-case basis. I advise the city and y'all's development committee to, when that time comes, be looking at those, because there's offsets in both directions there. However, I would not say that they can be reimbursed through the impact fee account. I think they could have their impact fee waived if they commit to doing one of the CIP projects. And then it's what's the city's decision on if the impact fee is greater or less than the construction of that, and if that's negotiable within the development. That's the best answer I got for that question. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, so what would happen is they would, if you've got a 400-foot stretch of water line that they need in front of their property, and they want to pay for that 400 stretch of the water line, the city could opt to let them construct that water line and not impose the impact fee. And that's the negotiation that could go back and forth between the city and the developer. So next slide. The impact fee collection, like I was mentioning a little bit, the impact fees need to be kept separate. It is a restricted fund. The impact fees must be used in a 10-year time period. The impact fees can only be used for CIP projects. You can't snowball into a project that's not listed in the project map or the project CIP list. However, the impact fee study can be revisited at any time. It actually mandatorily has to be visited every 5 years. This is something that needs to be looked at every 5 years, updated as needed. However, like if the city's development strategy changes more east than west or more north than south, the impact fee can be revisited. You go through the process of revisiting it, going back through, updating your land use assumptions map, updating your CIP list, updating the impact fee, go back through that approval process. You can implement it the second the city adopts those new impact fees. So it's not cemented in forever. Go ahead. I believe the way the rule is written is the second the city adopts the revision, it can be imposed then and there. I can follow up and get you a true answer on that, speaking from memory a little bit there. But and then the city must maintain an annual impact fee report. You know, it's subject to auditing if required. So we just need to make sure the city is keeping up with the collection amount, any projects that have been partially funded, balances, refunds, or credits. So just staying on top of that. One other caveat to this is the city will also have to have a committee made up of similar individuals that we had for the land use committee, that needs to be made up of real estate individuals as well as city staff and other professionals. And then they need to stay on top of things, and that can be part of the committee that revises this every 5 years. But it is important that you have that committee put together. That's kind of not quite a 10,000-foot view, but maybe a 5,000-foot view of what an impact fee is. I think y'all have copies in front of y'all of our actual impact fee study, which includes the CIP list, the CIP report, and the land use assumptions map and report as well. I encourage y'all to look through this. We're not taking any action on this tonight, but we will be coming back to y'all in the not so distant future with the land use assumptions and the CIP after the public hearing, seeking y'all's vote and agreement so we can move forward with doing the same for the impact fee. I'll turn that back over to y'all if y'all have any questions, thoughts, or concerns. Now you're chomping at the bit. Let's go.
You knew it, you could tell.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
only have one, lucky you.
Awesome.
Do any of our neighboring cities in Liberty County impose an impact fee? Dayton or Liberty or any other smaller cities?
I think with the cities that are on that list were all of the cities saying that there's other public entities, because MUDs are also government agencies, that water districts, MUDs, SUDs, PUDs, they can impose these as well. And I know several in the surrounding area, not far from y'all, also impose these. But that list of cities, I believe, is the closest cities. Am I wrong in misstating that, Ryan?
I'm not sure, we'll look into that, and we can send something to a VAO, and we can pass it around. That's a good thing to
So, Emilio, wicked fast typing on his computer, found that Dayton is in fact charging an impact fee. Yeah. Sure. I am familiar with several MUDs that do impose impact fees as well in the not far from here, a couple miles. So I am familiar with other people in this area. So again, I think this is a smart tool. I think you have the right to exercise it or don't. I would rather you have the tool belt or the tool in your tool belt and not use it than not have it and want to use it. As y'all know, the city is growing and the infrastructure is aging. And this is just another financial tool for y'all to be able to utilize that would help y'all put together infrastructure that is a positive growth for Cleveland without having to put stringent taxation on the current constituents. Any other questions?
No other questions? All right, I guess we'll adjourn into our, oh, sorry.
Sean?
It's okay. I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a real quick statement. Is being on the development committee, we've actually had a number of developers that have been coming in probably the last couple of years. And one of their questions is if we have the impact fees yet. And we always kind of joke around, oh, so you better hurry up because we are working on it. But that is a common thing for this area that the developers that we're starting to see know that that's out there and have already started asking if we have it, and if we don't have it, what our timeline is to starting it, so that they kind of can gauge off of that. But they are looking for us to have it.
Yeah, and just kind of piggybacking off Sean, I think developers understand that cities are going to be imposing these. They're fully aware. They'll, maybe taking advantage is not the right word, but they will definitely love to not have them. But they are aware that most do, and they build it into their pro forma. And like I said, the surrounding cities that are imposing impact fees are not struggling for lack of development due to the impact fee itself. So again, it's a tool on the tool belt. You don't have to exercise it if you don't want to.
Any more comments or questions? All right, we'll adjourn into our council meeting